Disads. Okay. So disads are basically where you read like another argument. I don't want to call it another contention, but it's like a mini contention, which sounds really dirty because it kind of is. But you want to like tie it to like a narrative so it's not too sketchy. But there are a couple of ways you can pull this off. Like, I think my success in my past year, I'd say about 60% of the times I was hard carried by an argument, it was because it was a disad and they just like couldn't respond to it in time, or they spent too much time on it. I think it's just really powerful to set up more win conditions in your rebuttal, because then it's like, okay, now I have to respond to more and more arguments, and it's hard for them to cover everything. Okay, I think this is a slightly less sketchy concept, and also very powerful. Oftentimes, when you're reading a response, it will sometimes contribute to your own case. For example, if you're talking about a recession and you're responding to one of their arguments, then you could be like, hey, this response actually ties into my win condition of recession. And you could be like, hey, this thing I'm bringing up in rebuttal, it's an independent link into my own impact. So it's kind of like a disad, but it's not a new win condition. It's just reconnecting to an old one. This is kind of hard to flow, which really trips opponents up, which is kind of dirty. But I think it's also super powerful and also incredibly underutilized. I say that disads and independent links are the most, besides turns, are like the most effective ways to just shut down and win a debate in rebuttal. Yeah.
Yay, drills. Okay, so round vision. Stop and judge rounds. So after each crossfire, all 5 participants in the round will write a full RFD. So the goal of this is to have practice debaters start thinking like judge. Yeah, and I think being able to be in the judges, like sort of force yourself to be in the judges spot is a really good thing to do, just because like I think for a lot of debaters there's like a sort of dichotomy between what they think is important and what a judge thinks is important, right? Like, for example, like a lot of these judges, they don't really care about like I don't know, what would a judge not care about? Like these really like big impacts that like might not sound really good, but I think a lot of them like care about things that like hit home to them, right? Like, for example, if you get like an Asian conservative, they don't really care about your racism impact, right? But they care about your jobs impact, even though in the scope of like the debate world, that impact is probably less cool, you know? So I think like being able to like sort of see around through like how a judge is seeing it is also really key, because when I've been judging rounds, I like look at my flow and I'll think like, what can a debater do to win the round from here, right? Like, what does this debater need to do for me to vote for them, right? And I think what a lot of people like who are doing rounds just like sort of don't really see, I think, is like some of the arguments that they're making don't really matter, right? So I think like being able to converse with others about how you see the round and comparing it to them and how they would judge the round is also really critical at developing like a sense of what the judge actually is looking at and like what they think really matters. Video analysis. So you go on YouTube, like search up PF videos or something, and you watch a video until second cross. So that's after the rebuttals. And you either give a summary or final focus depending on like what speaker position you are or what you're trying to do. And after you give the speech, you watch and compare to what those debaters actually say. So the goal here is to basically compare like what the strategy that you go for to what more seasoned debaters in reality go for, and like what like ultimately wins them the round, or what ultimately loses them the round, right? Shoot. So yeah, if you do this, it's just a good idea because it really like puts you in the shoes of like someone else who like has gone through like the case and rebuttal, and this means that you like focus on strategy, right? Like what can win you the round versus like what might lose you the round. Understanding RFDs, writing ballots. Okay, so you watch a round, you flow it, and then after each speech and crossfire, write a ballot for a team. And at the end of the round, write a ballot for each team. Or you can watch a round and flow around and then write a ballot for each team at the end. So the goal of this is just to, I think like a good idea for people in general is to judge rounds if they want to get like better at debate. Because I think understanding a round through the judge's perspective like makes things make a lot of sense, right? Like I think a lot of debaters get hung up on things that don't really matter to judges, right? Like I think ultimately at the end of the day, judges really care about like the effects of like these arguments, right? The actual impacts, but they don't really care about like the hanky panky stuff about like um, things that don't really matter, right? But I think in a lot of rounds, like people get hung up on that. So um, the drill is meant to show students what is meaningful to a judge who might be judging around. Yeah, just getting from your judge's perspective also goes to show like what strategies are the most important or most appealing to you. Okay, time to split. Karina.
Uh, yeah, so we're gonna do what we did last week, and for a meeting with like private lesson stuff, assignments, we'll do that at the very end. So we'll split into rooms 1 and 2 right now. Room 1 for first speakers and room 2 for second speakers. So, um, whoever's in room 2 should record the meeting for room 2. And someone from room A should log in as essay and record. So we should split now. Okay.
Could you repeat that? I didn't hear.
Okay, so we're splitting